Thank you, Mr. Chair. Admiral, welcome, and thank you for the conversations that we have had recently to discuss missile defense and more specifically in Alaska, what's happening up in Greeley. I would like to just state at the outset that I'm confident in our systems. I appreciate your leadership there at MDA. Recognize that we have had successful tests, CEI tests in the past. I think you and I would agree that it helps to have additional testing. It helps to keep on testing. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. 100% agree.
As you know, I was in Greeley at the beginning of May, had an opportunity to go through the field there, and this is obviously not my first time. I have been through on many, many occasions, but I have been pleased to see the build-out, the proposal that we have with Missile Field 1 there. It was absolutely my view that it was short-sighted by the administration with the previous decommissioning of Missile Field 1 there at Greeley. I look at this, and particularly in view of what we see with increasing threats coming out of North Korea, Iran, my concern is that we not leave Greeley at less than full capacity and capability. What more can we do at Fort Greeley to provide the best missile defense to protect our nation?
Yes, ma'am. The first step is for us to complete on schedule the Missile Field 1 refurbishment and to get those silos ready for the additional GBIs that we're going to buy. There would be growth possibilities beyond that if we decided to go beyond 44. 44, though, gives us a roughly 50% increase in terms of defense of our homeland against the ballistic missile defense attack. So completing the testing, completing the missile field modifications, being ready for the reload of that field up to 44 is paramount importance to our strategy.
And you are comfortable with the schedule that we are on to fill that out?
Yes, ma'am. And there'll be contracts released this summer to begin that work.
There are future cost savings, I think, if we were to improve Missile Field 1 to 11 or 20 silos now instead of 6. Would you agree that by increasing the funds by a relatively low amount now that we would increase efficiencies and allow for greater benefits in the long run?
Yes, ma'am. There would be benefit to that if the threat situation dictated.
Where would you say that you would invest your next dollars in order to achieve that persistence coverage for the United States that we're all looking for? Where do you spend your money next?
I would spend our next dollar on discriminating sensors, meaning radars, big radars, west and east, to give us the capability of where I see the threat going in the next 5 to 10 years.
And as you say, okay, those are your first dollars, how does this then track with the plans and the scheduled build-out at Fort Greeley?
The premise, the fundamental tenet of the strategy to go to 44 was the escalation of the threat from North Korea as the most near-term issue the United States faces. And going to 44 by 17 keeps us ahead of that threat in terms of numbers and capacity. We need to take the additional step of discriminating sensors as the threat moves beyond just numbers, but also sophistication to help counter that escalation. And my view is that the 44 is important. The 44 addresses what we see with North Korea today. Discriminating sensors are going to be equally important. And then what you'll see is the Department evaluate the need and the requirement to go beyond 44 as we start to evaluate the threat from Iran and other nations like that.
So you view these as on parallel tracks. So we are working to build out on the radar side as well at the same time, concurrently then, as we are addressing all of our issues at Greeley.
Yes, ma'am. You'll see us down the 44 path in a serious nature, in a serious way. You'll see us study, and we've done some studies already with the combatant commander on discriminating sensors and where those might be and what they might look like. And then the pre-work that's going on with the CONUS interceptor site study that I'm doing this year and the EIS that will follow to keep these three things in parallel.
Okay. And you may have addressed this already, but can you speak to the timeline of the flight testing and return to flight for our newer missiles?
Yes, ma'am. The newest missile will be flight tested in March of 2014, intercept tested. And as you know, we've had 2 failures of that missile. We understand what the problem is through ground testing. We're confident that it's been completed and adequately addressed, and we look forward to the intercept test.
Okay.
And that remains on schedule.
Are we testing now as we would in a war fight?
We are testing in a way that's representative of a trajectory or a threat missile that would come from a country such as North Korea. The last test that we did was very similar to that in terms of speed and altitude. And it was actually the longest range intercept test that we had tried. So we're continuing to progress up that curve, but the question that I received from the chairman earlier is, it is necessary, based on the cost of these tests, to have our best engineers there to script the test, to understand what those timelines are, so that we get the maximum engineering value from the test. I'm confident that the warfighters, if asked, could employ the system seamlessly.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Admiral.